guys, my name is Michael and welcome to the third tutorial of our GTK GtkAccelLabel. Until now we saw how GTK GtkAccelLabel new works together with GTK GtkAccelLabel SetAccel widget. In other words, we were from the previous video we were creating a window, and then we were creating a button. Let me check it. Later we had to create a new Accel group, and then we were basically starting with a new Accel label. And with the help of the GTK widget add accelerator, we are basically adding that accelerator, and we are monitoring, of course, the activate signal at that point. So in other words, when we compile it and run it the way it was before, we can have two possible ways to work with this button. Basically, you can click on it, or you can work with Ctrl Q like I do right now. So that was the point. Now the next function which I'm going to introduce you, it is very interesting because we saw how the SetAccel widget works. Now we are going to check how SetAccel Closure works. This function sets the closure to be monitored by this accelerator label. So the closure must be connected to an accelerator group, which we have already, and pass signal for the accelerator will this accelerator label, and so on. Okay, so basically we need an Accel label and a closer for this. Before we move, I'm going to remove this part and put it right here, and then I'm going to comment these two calls. At this point we don't need them. Let me compile it and run it for a second, and it is working, and the Ctrl Q doesn't, so which is fine. Okay, now let us move on. The first thing first, we need to call this function. Basically it works like this. It is quite easy. We need a Accel label. I'm going to copy this one, and of course we need a closure. Now let us create let me call it here SetAccel Closure, and now let me create the closure. So for this what we need first to declare a gcloser. Now closure should be pointed to there are different functions. I'm going to work with a new swap, GTK Closure new swap. In here G callback, we need a callback function. I'm going to call it closure callback. Then the next thing which we need some information. I'm going to create a message information, and of course we need a notify destroy function, which means we need to destroy that information. So I'm going to say G closure notify, and let me call it free data. Now at this point, the next thing which we need to create two things. No, again the next thing, it is the message. So gchar message, and the message it will be created with gstring dop, and the message will be you press Ctrl Q. Okay, now we have the message. We need to create the closure callback and the free data functions. So let us start with the closure one, the first one. So static void closure callback. Let me remove this part from here, and here we need the message, which should be printed. I'm going to say gprint gprint whatever %s new line and the message. Now let me create a free data function, static void free data function. The free data function of course needs the gchar data and the gclosure, the closure. Of course I'm not going to use the closure, so I'm going to mark it as unused, but it has to be there. If you don't pass it, then something goes wrong. And now here I'm going to say gprint the memory was released, or whatever what you want to, and now you are safely to call gfree on the data, which means you are cleaning your program. Now let me see, we were creating the closure where we are passing the message and we are printing with it. Once that we're done with the free data, then basically once we are done with the accelerator, we are basically calling the free data when the program exits, and the gfree will be called on the data. Here we were creating the closure and the message. The message we are passing it into the gc closure new swap, where the first one is our closure, the second is the message which we are creating, and the last one is the free data. You don't really need to do this, but if you want to, I showed you how it's working. And then of course we were calling the GTK AccelLabel SetAccel Closure. Now let me see what happens at this point with our program, how it looks like. As you can see, it says we have some problems and it is not working, because here says GTK AccelLabel SetAccel Closure assertion, because the GTK Accel group from Accel Closure and so on is not equal to null, failed. Why it happening? It happens because now at this point we need to call the GTK Accel group connect. If you don't call that function, let me go to search for it. So GTK Accel group connect. Now, whoa, GTK Accel group connect, something doesn't work. Let me check again. I hate you, but it should go at some point. Let me see, accelerators, groups. Now let me see, GTK Accel group connect, where is it? Right here. It says it is a function which basically install an accelerator in this group. So when the Accel group is being activated in response to the call to GTK Accel group activate, the closure will be invoked if the Accel key and the Accel modes from the Accel group activate match those to this connection. So the signature used for the closure is that of GTK Accel group activate. Okay, note that due to the implementation, a single closure can only be connected, which is very important. And the things which we need the first accelerator, an accelerator key, Accel mode, flag, and the closure itself. Now we know about the accelerator key, the mask, and about the flags. Now the last thing, it is the closure. So in other words, we need to call this function right before we call this one. So basically right here. And here we are going to say now GTK Accel how was group connect, yes. Now the first one, it will be the Accel group which we need to pass it. So our Accel group, which is the group, we call it group. The second one which we need to pass, it is the key, and then we need the mode and the flag. So basically we need the key, the mode, and the flag right here. I'm going to copy all of these things. And the last one, we need the closure, because without the closure nothing's works. So closure. Now let me format it and compile it and run it. Now at this point we have the accelerator right here. the button works when we click it, and Control Q works fine as well. And as you can see at this point says you press the Control Q, which means everything works as expected. Now the next thing which I want to show you, it is watch now what happens if you comment out this function, the GTK, which we are commenting at the beginning of this video, GTK widget add accelerator. At this point we are calling this function as well, together with all this information which we are creating in this video. I'm going to click the button, says you click the button. Now Control Q says, you see, you press the Control Q and you click at the button. So basically this is the way how you make that trick which I showed you in the first video, where you can decide between which kind of callback should be called and how would you expecting to work when someone press Control Q, like I'm doing right here. See, both of them, they are called, not just one. Now let me close the program and exit the program. As you can see now, when I hit X, when I close the program, doesn't print the message the memory was released, which means we have a memory leak. Why is that happening? Well, we have to go a little bit back to the accelerator group right here, and I want to introduce you the next function which you need to know about it. It is called GTK AccelGroup disconnect. Once that you connect something, you need to disconnect it as well. If not, it doesn't work. So removes an accelerator, previously installed through GTK AccelGroup connect. So basically copy, where will you call it? Of course after the main loop, because this once the GTK main returns, then should this function should be called. So group and closure. No, close. Now because we call this function, let me format it a little bit, and now because we call this function after the GTK main, now let's see what happens. Does our function really get called? So you click the button, works, Control Q works both. I'm going to hit X and says the memory was released, you see, and now everything works fine. Basically this is the way how you will work with these functions called GTK AccelLabel SetAccel Closure. Now of course these things are very important, the way you work with them. There are a lot of ways to get them work the way you want to. You can call, of course, the GTK SetAccel, which means you can pass an information for your label, which means if you want, let me show you. Let me stop call this function for a second, and this one as well, and this one as well, and this one as well. And now let me call the GTK AccelLabel SetAccel. It says manually sets an kval and modifier mask as the accelerator rendered by the AccelLabel. So if the kval and modifier are explicitly set, then these values are used regardless of any associated accel closure or widget. Now, as you can see, this function expects those three things which you already know: the label, accelerator, the K, and the mode. How it will work, let me comment it a little bit before we use that, and I need to mark the free data and the closure as unused. And now let me compile the program for a second. Yes, of course I need to comment the GTK Accel group disconnect as well. Now let me show you something. As you can see, I'm hitting the button and Control Q works also fine. And this happens because we said the GTK widget add accelerator, and in this point we are saying which one, which mask and which case should be worked. But watch again, it doesn't print the accelerator right here. Why? Well, before we had it, because before when we called this one it was set for you. Now right here, as you can see, it was set for you. Let me show you again just to be sure that you understand. Watch. You see, it is right there. But if you don't want to work with that function and you want to work with this one, then you call this function after you create the accelerator right here. Okay, and you pass those three informations, which is the group, the key, and the mask, which I'm going to pass them right now. Now let me compile it and run. I'm going to remove this thing right here. Let me compile it and run it, and you will see that okay, we have a problem. Let me see what's the problem right here. AccelLabel, yes, I need the AccelLabel, not the group. Sorry, my bad. It says right here GTK AccelLabel. Okay, now let me compile it and run it. And now you see Ctrl Q is right here and works fine and works as expected, which is a good thing, isn't it? Because basically you can work with this information in a lot of ways. Anyway, you can let this one, once that you create it, you can call it also together with all this information which we learned today, like this. Now basically everything works fine, and this is the way how your program should look like if you want to call them both. Now a crazy thing which you can also do, which I'm not suggesting you can hide some callbacks. For example, if you call now GTK widget add accelerator, watch, on another key, like for example let's say T. Now when I compile it and run it, hit the wrong button, but I'm going to clean it. When I'm going to compile it and run it, now you will see something. I'm going to click the button. You click the button, Ctrl Q says you press Ctrl Q, and now with the Ctrl T, basically it says click the button. You can do a lot of crazy things if you want to, but I'm not suggesting you to work like that, because if Ctrl Q says Ctrl Q, then you should work with Ctrl Q. If you want to call them both, then you can call this one. If not, you can just drop the call of this one and work with the closure which you created. The way you want to create your closures, or better said your accelerators, it is your decision. Anyway, I showed you two kinds of way which you can choose. From the second one, you can even call two different callbacks at the same time with the help of GTK AccelLabel SetAccel Closure and GTK widget add accelerator. That being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.